Welcome to G3, Games, Gadgets, and Guests, a video podcast from 702 Communications. I'm your host, Brian CROMMETT. I've got guests here today, but my guests are going to talk about gadgets, and they're going to talk about gadgets that we've talked about before, but in a different way than we've talked about them. So I'm looking forward to today's episode because it's going to be interesting. A local company, North Dakota Assistive, makes it their mission to better the lives of those with day-to-day limitations. I'm joined today by their program manager, Jeannie Krull. On my other side is Eventide Assisted Living's RN, Juli Martinson, Senior Living Resident Care Manger. I brought these two organizations together today to share the potential benefits and technological advancements can have for Eventide residents, as well as viewers with loved ones that may have need for smart home assistance. Ladies, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So we talked a little bit, I teased a little bit that we're talking about tech. Let's, in your words, hear what North Dakota Assistive does.
Oh, thanks. We work with individuals with disabilities and those experiencing the effects of aging and help bring them assistive technology. We connect them with the assistive technology to help improve their lives and make them more independent and safe in their homes and school and work and so on.
So when we say assistive technology, you know, as somebody that isn't currently dealing with a loved one that's in need of assistive technology, when we're talking about assistive technology, what really are we talking about?
Good question. Technology for all of us, especially now, it's everywhere. And it helps make our lives better, but technically, don't have a heart attack, but we could live without it for most of us. But for people with disabilities, assistive technology could be the same devices, but for people with disabilities, it helps them, it makes things possible that aren't normally possible with their disability.
A lot of us use, like the Siris and the Googles and the Alexas, just to make our day-to-day a little bit easier. I might ask for the weather in the morning because it's easy.
Yeah.
One of your clients, though, that might be the only way they get the weather, right?
Well, yeah, that's a great example. And for some, and like an individual with dementia, for example, may need to really make sure that they're dressed appropriately and may need a reminder of what the weather is like and may not be able to tell just by looking outside or remembering what yesterday was like. And so saying, computer, show me the weather. And
here is the weather in Fargo.
And she'll do it.
And she does it.
No, and that's great. So when you obviously see that a lot, throughout the whole region, what are you seeing just at Eventide?
Yeah, so I'm definitely seeing an upswing in people that are using assistive technology. Even if it's something as simple as, people having smartphones and they can use Siri or Bixby or whatever to call a family member or to order their own supplies. A lot of our residents aren't able to get out. They no longer drive, or maybe they had doctor's appointments. They weren't able to get out to the stores, and so they can use Alexa on Amazon to order supplies for themselves, which makes them. It allows them to be more independent for a longer amount of time. Also, just something to kind of build off of what Jeannie said was. Using these devices are important for people, not only for, like you said, dementia or other cognitive deficits, but also for people with something like, say, macular degeneration, who aren't able to type out a number on their phone or read a piece of paper that might have an appointment time on it. And they can say, Echo, tell me when my next doctor appointment is.
Right.
There might also be an emergency situation where something like this could come in very handy. Let's say somebody has a fall and they don't have their emergency pendant with them, which they should. But let's say they don't, and so they can say, Echo, call the nurses station. And then, the nurses are running right up.
So we've talked about some of these things, and we talked about the Echo Show very generally before, because that's a piece of technology that I don't necessarily have a use for in my home. But it's interesting how you talk about, the evolution of some of these smart home assistants and devices like this, where they started with just audio, and that was great. And now that they've gone to a video-based, that really opens things up for a whole different class of people that needs assistance, right?
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, this particular device, and this is one of the older ones actually, can do like if you have an individual, like your mom or your dad, for example, and they really maybe don't remember exactly how to answer a phone or dial a phone, you can set up, so you have the Alexa app on your phone, for example, and your parent has one of these, and you can say, "Computer, drop in on Mandan." And so what it's doing right now is dropping into our Mandan Center, believe it or not. And the lights are out. So, actually, they have their camera turned off. So, computer, hang up on Mandan. But that, now picture if that was your mom, and you were able to just check in to see if she's okay. You don't want to wait till they're pushing the button. And you know, we've heard of stories, you know, where individuals have you know, not push the button.
Sure. Yep. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Stuff like that, stuff like that really puts a family member at ease, knowing that you can just drop in on a loved one who might not be able to answer the phone or may not remember how to answer the phone or whatever. So there is definitely an element of safety and an element of comfort for the loved one who might be on the other end of that.
Right, and especially in your assisted living, they're smaller units. So even if they weren't in front of the camera, you could probably shout through and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm here," you know, and you'd be able to have a conversation then. And
So, Julie, you had mentioned possibly a resident falling at some point, and maybe not having their button on them. Are you seeing any adoption of like the smartwatches now with the fall detection in them? Is that?
Yeah. We actually have a couple of residents that have, and they're just Apple Watches. Basically what happens is if the watch predicts a fall, if the resident doesn't say, "I'm okay," it automatically calls 911 and an emergency contact that they've assigned in their watches. One thing that the development of home assistive technology has really done is it's gone leaps and bounds for the medical community. So we have residents that sometimes aren't able to get out to appointment, whether it be weather or they're not feeling well that day, maybe they're having some generalized weakness and they're not ready to go out. There are a couple of items that are now available to the public that weren't 10 years ago. One is a cardiac monitor that has an app on your smartphone and also on the smartphone of somebody, like let's say an emergency contact, so a daughter, a son, a family member, where they can actually monitor the cardiac activity for over a week's time and identify if there's a problem there. So not only is it convenient for the family member to say, "Oh, Mom doesn't have her monitor hooked up correctly. I'm going to call the nurses and have them go up and help her." But it's also great for the physicians because they are able to get a more accurate picture of what their cardiac activity is over a course of time versus just maybe like a stress test one day in the clinic. Another thing that we're seeing a lot of are diabetic monitors that are actually inserted directly into the arm. And there's also an app for those on the smartphones. So let's say we have somebody that's completely independent, not on any nursing services, but dang it, she just can't remember to check her blood sugar every morning. So what they can do is they can give son or daughter or family member the option to get permission to view those blood sugars. So Betty forgets to check her blood sugar in the morning. Pam checks it and says, "Oh, Mom didn't check her blood sugar this morning. I'm going to give her a call and remind her." She can also see if Mom's blood sugar is high or low and alert the nurses accordingly, or even call 911.
Right. No, those are both great examples of how home health care really is taking off, and that's another whole discussion to have, you know, because that home health care really started with kind of expensive gear that we couldn't get over the counter, and now it's turning into much more accessible gear that people really should start thinking about using more often. Even before you're in a position where you might be in an assistive or some sort of facility like that. You could just be using it at home, just again to make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Do you want just a little bit more about the Echo?
Sure. What else are you doing with the Echo Show?
Well, I mean, you can hook it up to a variety of things, like the camera. You can see, "Computer, show me the bedroom camera."
Okay.
So now it's going to fade in, and it's fading in because it wants to get the other person prepared. So it's dinging on the other end to prepare them, and then
Let people know the camera's on.
people know the camera's on. And
That's
it fades
important.
in. And that's a picture of our center in Fargo. Computer, hang up.
There is no active call.
Computer, hide the camera. That's a great example of remembering what your commands are.
Yeah, absolutely. And
when
what you're doing with it at the time.
Yeah.
Looking at a camera looks a lot like making a call. I get the confusion. Yeah.
So you don't want to introduce too many things
Yep.
that,
Sure.
because it's a big memory load to remember that. But this also can do lists and reminders. So can do timers for cooking. For example, how many times do you forget the sticky that has all the groceries on it that you need? And now, the minute I take that last egg, I can say, computer, put eggs on my shopping list. Computer, put eggs on my shopping list.
You already have eggs on your shopping list.
I've done this
Would
before.
you like to add eggs again?
No.
Okay.
Sure. So I guess the question is, I mean, you're seeing more of this in even at Eventide as well. But how easy is the learning curve? What are you seeing for that? I mean, you talk about the different commands people need to know to really take advantage of this. What's the learning curve look like? How is adoption going?
I think it just depends on their cognitive skills, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would agree. It's just like any other plan of care for a resident that we care for. So, we'd say maybe Betty's able to say call so-and-so, but she's not able to use the video conferencing. So maybe that's something that her family says, you know what, we'll conference her. We're not gonna try to remember to make her do that.
Yeah, that's great.
So we've talked about the Echo Show. You talked a little bit about heart monitors, glucose monitors. Any other piece of assistive tech that it really stands out as something everybody should be looking at, everybody should be using or
Yeah, I mean, I think the cameras and then home, the motion detectors, I think are
Okay.
a good thing. Like we said before, we don't want to wait till somebody pushes the button and says they need help. We want to, when you have motion detectors set up, you can have that hooked up to, I could have it hooked up on my phone and I could see, oh, yep, my mom's opening and closing doors. That means she's up and she's all, doing well. And if I see nothing, then either her Wi-Fi turned off or something's wrong.
Okay.
And so then I'll make a call. And I think it's really a different thing, than we had before. All we had was push the button when you're in trouble. But how many times,
Right.
are there issues? So.
smart locks is something that I use at home. So you're seeing more of that with your clients as well?
Yeah, a lot of our individuals have a hard time unlocking and locking their door. And they also have care providers coming in and out, and they don't necessarily want to give everyone the key, especially if someone's not hired anymore. And,
Sure.
and they have to rekey all the locks. So when you have a smart lock, you're able to issue out codes and then delete those codes when you no longer want that person to have
Yep.
access to your home. And that is. And then when you're inside, you're able to open then and close with Alexa. You can say, Alexa, Alexa, or computer, unlock the Yale lock. I don't think this one's set up, but
What's your voice code for Yale lock?
okay, we'll try that again. I really didn't think it was set up for this one. Computer, unlock the Yale lock.
What's your voice code for Yale lock?
1993.
Unlocking.
It's actually
Hang on.
unlocking now, back in Fargo.
The
Or
Yale lock is unlocked.
okay. So
No, that's good, though.
Yeah.
The-
So they can do both ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll say too, I've got the August smart lock at home too, and I can see that. I mean, that's a huge dial that replaces your little,
Oh, yep.
deadbolt lock. I mean, that could be a huge thing just for people with,
Dexterity
trouble with
issues.
their, dexterity. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And you lose a key, and then you bend down to get the key, which begets a fall potentially.
Sure.
I mean, there's so many good reasons to have that.
You also mentioned that you're using smart ceiling fans.
Yeah.
Talk to me
yeah.
about those
So
a little
let's
bit.
say you have you've had a stroke and really getting in and out of a chair is really difficult for you, and you're tired of asking your spouse to I'm hot, I'm cold, turn this on, turn it down just a tish, but they don't get it quite right. I mean, wouldn't you like to have control of the fan yourself?
Yeah.
But maybe you, because of the stroke, you aren't able to hold that remote anymore. And this allows you, a smart fan, ceiling fan, allows you to control it by voice. And you can get built smart fans, ceiling fans that have the built-in smart capabilities, or you can get them, get a Bond, like James Bond, and it's an add-on to a ceiling fan that will allow you to control any type of, most types of remote control ceiling fans. And so we have both of those in our 2 centers. So.
Bottom line, Julie, does all this tech make your job easier?
I wouldn't necessarily say it makes my job easier. I would say that it makes the residents that we serve, it makes their life a higher quality.
Improves quality of
and
life.
it allows them to be more independent for a longer period of time. And I will say that at Eventide, we have no problem with installing things like the smart ceiling fan Bond or the smart locks, because we've had a couple situations where that's their only deficit. They can't get that door open. Other than that, they're 100% independent.
That's great.
And so, we've had people install automatic door openers, and it just makes a world of difference to them. So I guess in that regards, it makes my job easier.
Fair enough. It does come down to improving quality of life, absolutely. But if it can, as a side benefit, also help you healthcare professionals, that's a good plus.
Yeah.
Well, I think this has been a really interesting discussion. If people want more information about North Dakota Assistive, where can they get more information about what you guys do?
ndassistive.org or 1-800-895-4728.
Okay, and you have offices in Mandan and Fargo?
You bet.
So people just schedule an appointment, or?
Yes, please call and schedule an appointment. I might be out doing one of these. So.
And how do we learn more about Eventide?
Yeah, you can go to our website at www.eventide.org, or you can contact us at our main line 218-291-2200.
Well, this has been a really interesting discussion. Thank you, ladies, for coming.
You're welcome.
And
thanks for inviting us.
Absolutely. That's a wrap for this episode of G3. I hope you liked this look at assistive living technologies. If you did, let me know. Comment on the video, like, share, subscribe, and tell all your friends about us, because we've got some more great content coming. And don't forget to check out my guest appearances on Valley News Live's North Dakota Today, where I dive into more of my favorite tech. Until next time, I'm Brian CROMMETT, and this is G3.